Hello and good morning, welcome as we begin our week in the conventional sense, early on Monday. But we enter a new phase of the waxing moon in its final quarter, approaching the full moon of October, which represents the end of this rains retreat, this monsoon season here in India, and this 3-month period of time where I have been staying in one place. After which, as you now know, I'll be moving on, travelling, wandering, resuming charaka practice, this practice of wandering ascetic. In the meantime, in this last few days here, I'll continue in my practice and after this period also hope to find time to continue talking to you like this. It doesn't take very long out of my day, an hour really at most, to go through the comments I receive and answer your questions, or talk about your questions at least anyway, from the point of view of my own experience. So with that in mind, before I start waffling on, I will go straight to the questions and we'll begin there. Okay. I'm looking at starting my journey into Buddhism. Can you give me advice as a beginner, please? I've always pushed my thoughts of Buddhism to one side, and now the time is right. Where do I begin? Thank you in advance. Where do I begin? Okay, if you've always pushed your thoughts of Buddhism to one side, I would say you've already begun to have any thoughts of Buddhism. But I would begin firstly at looking at the life of the Buddha himself, the Buddha, our teacher. Buddhism is, I was talking to one of the novices here yesterday. I asked him, what is Buddhism? Because if someone comes along to this Vihara whom has never heard of Buddhism and sees someone whom a novice, whatever, is dressed as a monk, may well ask this question. Perhaps not so much here in this location, but should it happen. And we don't speak, he doesn't speak a lot of English, so obviously this was the main barrier there. But I reminded him, I said Sila, and he remembered and said Samadhi Panya. So what is Buddhism? It is Sila, Samadhi, Panya. This is the practice of moral virtue, meditation and wisdom. But where do you begin? You've already had those thoughts. But where I would begin is looking at the life of the Buddha himself. So find a book. There is a book called The Life of the Buddha. I think there are probably many. But just simply, if you've found me and you've left this message, you have access to the internet. One has to assume that. So just Google the life of the Buddha and various books will come up. But without even finding, purchasing, looking at books, you will see in just a simple Wikipedia entry on Siddhartha Gautama, which is the name of the Buddha. It will come up with that. You don't have to look further than the life of the Buddha. Read this. It's a summary of the Buddha and his life. This is the greatest inspiration we can have to move us forward into Buddhism. After all, he is our teacher, the Buddha. I asked the Samanera those two questions. Firstly, who is your teacher? And he listed this list of our teachers or his teachers in his tradition, our teachers in our tradition, from so-and-so, 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 so-and-so. I said, stop. I said, your teacher is the Buddha. And thereafter, following in his footsteps are his disciples and acharyas, teachers, noble teachers, subsequently throughout history. But our original teacher is the Buddha. So this is where you begin. And you are starting your journey. So this is the very start. This is the most exciting and wonderful place to be, where it's pure, uncomplicated. Now, if you can keep it like that throughout your journey or life in Buddhism, then you will do far better than making it complicated, because you will see how simple the Buddha's teachings are. So you begin there with the life of the Buddha, how he grew up, what he was sheltered and shielded from. Many of these videos here on this channel repeat often, especially around the Vassa period, the middle of the Buddhist year, so the full moon of May, when we celebrate the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, teaching, first teaching, and his parinibbana, his final departure, his death. At that time I often speak on the life of the Buddha. So if you go back to around May time last year, you might find a video summarising the life of the Buddha. But there, just simply Google, Wikipedia, you'll get a good idea. Then your practice begins. And the practice is, because the Buddha is the teacher, and then we are taking refuge in three things: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. As Buddhists, when I say taking refuge, we are just getting the support from, leaning on, using as our shelter Buddhism. So the Buddha, our teacher, you've understood and you've read about the life of the Buddha. That doesn't take long. It's a very simple but very interesting and inspiring story. It's not like reading the scriptures or anything like that. It's a very nice... The penguin, there's a nice penguin version book, for instance, you can read on that. I've forgotten the one I read, but it doesn't quite matter. There will be variances in all of these versions of the same story. You'll get the idea. I think you already probably know, most people do, whom are asking this question already. Then beginning the practice is by taking that refuge in the Buddha as a teacher, not a god, not someone to pray to or worship, just simply a teacher. And his teachings are what we call the Dharma. So we take refuge in three things: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Now the Dharma are the words of the Buddha, his teachings. His basic, simple teachings are the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. If you're not already familiar with those, Google Four Noble Truths, and it will lead you to Noble Eightfold Path, because the fourth of the Noble Truths is the path leading to the end of suffering, the Noble Eightfold Path. If it doesn't, then Google Noble Eightfold Path. Understand, know, those are the core teachings of Buddhism, what the Buddha taught. Then, to expand on your knowledge of the Buddha's teachings, the Dharma, of which you're taking refuge in, you could read the suttas. This is very much the word of the Buddha himself. If you're a reader, then you can go to the first stop would be the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle-length discourses. So the sort of average-sized teaching, middle-length in size, in length, suttas, which are his discourses, his teachings, to his bhikkhus and to his followers, lay people, which are just many stories that he used and taught to teach these Four Noble Truths, that there's suffering, a cause of suffering, an end of suffering, and a path leading to the end of suffering, and how we practice the Noble Eightfold Path of sila, moral virtue, samadhi, meditation, and panya, developing wholesome mind states, reducing unwholesome mind states, in other words, wisdom. So the Majjhima Nikaya. Now, all of these suttas, again, from all of the Nikayas, the middle length, the longer discourses, the short discourses, the connected and the numerical discourses, those 5 books are available on the internet. Doesn't require much data, not like watching videos on YouTube or anything like that, to just make these searches and read. Either download PDFs or read online all of these teachings from the Buddha. So this is the Dharma. And then the Sangha, the final, the third of the aspects we take refuge in, we use for our own advancement in this practice, are us. monks, the Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni Sangha of monks and nuns, whom are there practicing exactly as and how and what the Buddha taught, as far as how he wished his monks, his renunciants, people who give up, renounce the household life, just to practice as the Buddha taught in his Vinaya, in his system of training, his rules, this way of life, of simplicity. Now, as a layperson, you don't have to go that far. You simply start with Sila, moral virtue, which is 5 precepts. 5 precepts only. I said to this novice, so this is the answer. What is Buddhism? It is Sila, 5 precepts for lay people. For himself, a novice monk, it's 10, Dasa Sila, and for lay people it's Pancha Sila. So 5 is Pancha, Dasa is 10. So for lay people, 5. So what is Buddhism? It's Sila, Samadhi, Panya. This is what I said to this novice. Sila, 5 precepts, Samadhi, meditation, Panya, wisdom. Sila, Samadhi, Panya. This is my little hand thing to remind people of what it is. Once you really know that, you're on the correct path, as you say, and journey towards nibbana, enlightenment, freedom from suffering in this lifetime. But we begin with Sila. So you need to refrain from having understood the teachings of the Buddha. And you do this all at the same time. You don't have to wait until you've read the entire Majjhima Nikaya before you decide to keep the 5 precepts. But first thing, understand the life of the Buddha and start to begin slowly, one at a time, very slowly, reading the suttas in your own time. It's all there, the teachings are all there in the 4 Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. That's enough. Everything else is extra and starting to complicate it. If you remember, as I said at the beginning, keep pure, keep it simple. You're taking refuge in the Buddha, that teacher, you've understood his life, the Dharma, his teachings, the 4 Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, and the Sangha will support you. So listen to Dharma talks if you can, online, of monks of a tradition that you've decided is suitable to you. You'll find when you start, if you go down the rabbit holes of Google, finding all kinds of different traditions in Buddhism. But if you keep it simple and keep to the teachings of the Buddha, as are in the Majjhima Nikaya, and the simple 4 Noble Truths and Noble Eightfold Path, you'll find that there are many, although there are many directions you may go with this, this is the problem of Google, of course, is keeping it directed. If you stick to, I'm a Theravada Buddhist monk, and Theravada means way of the elders. It's the perhaps most closely related to the original word of the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha. That which is contained in the Majjhima Nikaya is the word of the Buddha, it's what he actually said. To summarize that, you don't have to get too excited about chanting or even doing chanting or listening to chanting, but if you find a simple chanting book, of which there is a link I can give you on here, with your own language, it translated into your own language, English I think, then these chants are mostly reflections or summaries of the teachings of the Buddha, of the word of the Buddha. Like the Anapanasati Sutta is contained in there. Even the 12 links of dependent origination, which is quite the complicated end of the teachings of the Buddha, are contained in there. In the simple version of chants, in the chanting book. Because this is how his teachings were first handed down by word of mouth, in verse form, in prose, in this easy to remember fashion. So this is a really excellent way of learning and understanding the word of the Buddha. This is the Dharma. And the Sangha, the body of monks and nuns, are here to help you with that. This is why we practice chanting. This is why we do puja, as we call it, but it's really just reflections on the Buddha's teachings each morning and each evening, or once a day, whatever the periodic time is, it doesn't matter, but reminding us of reflecting upon the teachings of the Buddha, and also reminding us that we are keeping 5 precepts, refraining from, this is sila, refraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying and taking intoxicants. I'm not sure I mentioned that just previously, so I'll just repeat it again. To keep sila, you just refrain from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying or taking of intoxicants. Don't get more complicated than that. The Noble Eightfold Path elaborates. For instance, right speech, the third aspect of the Noble Eightfold Path, goes into a lot more detail about harmful speech, divisive speech, untrue speech, unkind speech, and so on. All the different forms of speech that aren't right speech. But in the precept, the 4th precept, it's simply not lying. Just that. Simply not killing, simply not stealing, simply refraining from sexual misconduct, simply not lying, and simply don't take any intoxicants. That's the 5 precepts. This is where we begin on this path. We refrain from any of those activities. So it's not asking you to do something in particular, it's just refraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, or taking intoxicants. Refraining from. And then meditation. We begin with meditation in the simplest of forms. Sitting, relaxing, maybe finding guided meditations on YouTube just to get the idea. You may be more comfortable meditating using guided meditation, or you may be more comfortable without it. At first, most people prefer to have some form of guided meditation just so as they know what to do, how to sit, see your posture. Again, you can watch this channel on here, how to sit in meditation or how to meditate for a long time. Anything like that title on here is just that. There are also some guided meditations, simple guided meditations that I've done in the past here on this channel. So sila, keeping the 5 precepts, samadhi, meditation, and then wisdom, developing wisdom. Now this is developed from the Dharma, listening to the Dharma, listening to Dharma talks, reading the suttas. If you never buy any books, you can find all of this online. You can find the suttas in full if you're of a reading nature, an intellectual nature, if you want to go into the depth of the Buddha's teachings. But if you really want to practice Buddhism, try and keep it simple and just understand the 4 Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, and the teachings of the Buddha in the basic form of practicing Sila, Samadhi, Panya, but developing wholesome mind states, reducing unwholesome mind states. Now, this is where I could go on and talk forever on the subject, but your question is specifically about where to begin, and that is enough to begin with. The life of the Buddha, then taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, so perhaps start looking at the suttas, and the Sangha, so find online monks that are giving Dharma talks and talking to you, that you understand, that you feel comfortable listening to. Don't sort of just go because you've heard of this from someone, this monk, or you've heard of that monk. It's okay to like your teacher. In fact, it's essential. Don't listen to one monk just because you've heard he's the best monk, the most educated, the most qualified. If you don't really like him, his style, then the teachings won't gel, they won't sit so well with you. There are so many options out there, so many very wonderful teachers, monastics, nuns and monks. Listen to a few, and when one really clicks and you really like the sound and you like the style of that monk's teachings, then stick with it for a little while and listen. In the future you may change, but ones you like will help you learn. Teachers at school that you liked, it was easier to learn from than teachers that you didn't like. Now, I know I'm using this term of liking and disliking, and one should say, oh, you're Buddhist, it shouldn't matter. Of course, eventually, this is where we begin. If If you like your teacher, it will help. So, I hope that's covered that. Now, mosquitoes, do they bother you? How to avoid the stings? No, they don't bother me. There are plenty in here. How to avoid the stings. It's not actually that they're stinging you. The way it works is they inject through their proboscis, the little tube, an anticoagulant to stop the blood clotting as they withdraw the blood, because it's their food, their breakfast, their lunch, their dinner. This is all they're doing, is eating, feeding. So by letting them feed off you, you are giving to these beings. Now, I'm always assuming, from the point of view of my experience, well, from my experience with mosquitoes, these days there's not much malaria, or if any, been malaria around in regions where I've stayed, and I've been all over Thailand and all over India, and I've not encountered malaria or dengue. These are the two problems historically that being fed from by a mosquito, you would get those diseases because they carried them. Nowadays it's not so much. I've never had any vaccinations or inoculations against those things, so I think if there were, I would have had some problems by now. So assuming, because this would be very important to avoid being stung or not stung by, having them feed from you, if there was malaria, of course, but because that's a very serious condition. So assuming that's not the case, they're not stinging you. They have this anticoagulant that goes in there. Let me just explain it. A bee will sting you for its own protection, or a wasp will sting you for its own protection by actually putting in a stinger with some little poison in there. And a bee, in the case of a bee, will leave the stinger in there and then subsequently die because it has no way of protecting itself in the future. But a wasp can jab this stinger in over and over again and continue to live. That's stinging. Whereas a mosquito is simply feeding. Now, I accept the fact it's the most irritating thing, and the worst possible situation is when they go in your ears. That's the one aspect of mosquitoes I do struggle with. But you get used to it. So mosquitoes, do they bother you? Well, certainly not. If they did, I'd have a problem, because as I live in India here, all the doors and windows are open. You can probably see the mosquitoes. But how to avoid the stings? Well, ways to avoid, I've got some incense burning, and also I have a mosquito coil, which is a repellent. Because I'm in a fairly civilized area near a town, and we have access to shops and people to go to the shops for me, they've brought me in these coils which burn, and they repel. The mosquitoes tend not to come around smoky areas with that going on. You can apply also creams or stuff to your skin, mosquito repellent. These things aren't to kill the mosquitoes. You shouldn't be using sprays or anything like that to kill them, because this is killing, breaking the first precept. Also, that wouldn't work. You're just killing the ones that are present. You're not asking the others not to come near you. Repellents are really asking politely the mosquitoes not to come near you because you find them a little annoying. So this is the way. You use repellents on a simple and very useful repellent that I used to use when I first came to India was lemongrass oil or some kind of citronella. They don't like that. You can just put some aromatherapy lemongrass oil, a very small amount, on your wrists or on your neck or something like this, and like a perfume if you like, and it prevents them coming, but it's not 100% effective. If you're in a modern place, you can even buy plug-in mosquito repellents if you don't want smoke in your atmosphere for health reasons or whatever. Always read the label in case you're allergic to anything that these things put out. People use mosquito nets. I've never used those or bothered with them, or even tents. I don't like to surround myself. I prefer to be in nature. Also, the problem we have with those is if you have one mosquito in your net, that's possibly worse than having a lot of mosquitoes without a net, because it obviously wants to get out, so it gets a little bit more active. when they land on you, if you can do this and try this, and this is a tried and tested method, however much people say that I am wrong and they don't believe it, I'm still here. I have no mosquito bumps, no itches, no scratches, and I'm in probably the most mosquito-ish kind of, one of the most mosquito-ish kind of places you can be in. This is quite clear this morning, I think, because it's so cool. But allow them to land, take the blood and leave. And you will not have a sting or even an itch, because what happens is the coagulant goes in, and when it's finished feeding, it sucks its last bit of food and takes the coagulant away with it and flies off and leaves no remainder. Like if you drink from a little carton, one of these cartons with the straw, and you finish, when you've finished the drink, there's a little juice maybe in the bottom, but no remainder of you in the little container. Someone said that it squirts in saliva, but it doesn't. It puts in this anticoagulant, maybe in the form of saliva, but it sucks it all out and takes it with it. So you don't have any itches or scratching. So if you can just ignore them, then they will just land, takes a little bit of blood and go. And you've got plenty of blood. They take such a microscopic amount. If you brush them off, you will have an itch and a sting. A little drop of blood even will show. You know, this is because you've disturbed it mid-meal. If you let it finish, it goes, leaving a very clean job and no even scratch or itch. I've got one behind my ear right now. When they go in your ears, it is very difficult. It will disturb you in meditation. I suppose one could put some cotton wool or something in your ears, or even your earbuds, if you have such things these days, you know. But people might think you're listening to music or something, but it doesn't matter what people think, if that helps. But maybe just some cotton wool in your ears, if you're bothered about them going in your ears, because that is very loud, it's very disturbing, and it's very hard. Even I would find that difficult to sit still if a mosquito goes in my ears or up my nose. They tend not to, if they've got the rest of your body to choose from. So allow them to feed. So that's my answer to that. I spent too long on that question, really. But repellents are easily available, probably, where you are. They're not so easily available normally where I am, which is why I have to resort to the extreme methods of just putting up with them. You literally can be covered in mosquitoes and it does you no harm, more or less, these days. It's just a little bit irritating. But be with it. Let it be part of your meditation practice. If one mosquito is on your arm and you cannot keep your attention on the breath, then bring your attention to exactly what the mosquito is doing, and you can observe this from beginning to end and see that throughout there is no stinging, no biting, no pain, not even any irritation. It simply lands, takes the food and leaves. If you don't move and don't disturb it, it's really quite hard to focus your attention upon it. You just try it. I'm not just asking you to believe this. Try it for yourself. You'll see for yourself. Okay. I crave an answer. I'm in doubt about Buddhism, and my question is, how did the natural laws, including the law of karma, originate according to Buddhism? So, the law of karma, it's not so much a law, it's the truth, it's the way it is. So it didn't originate. If you understand what karma is, then you'll see that if that is your only doubt, then it's quite easy to eliminate that doubt. Because when you see what karma, it just means action, and vipaka is the result of that action. So karma is all of our actions of body, speech and mind, which are the causes and conditions for what happens next. So if you pick something up, it's left the floor, and it has the potential for you to continue to hold it, or you could let go and it will drop on the floor. Now what happens next, you cannot determine. It may just land on the floor, or it may land on the floor and shatter into a million pieces. You can have a good idea and you can guess what will happen next, understanding the nature of what it is you've picked up, let go of and dropped, but you cannot be 100% certain. So we cannot predict vipaka, the results of karma. And as to where it began, it didn't begin. This has always been the truth. It is just, it's not a thing, it is not an idea, it's not a law, it's not a belief. It is an understanding of nature that all actions have results. I mean, there is some physics theories that all actions have a reaction, but that's quite specific and can be calculated. In regards to karma, if I say something to somebody, positive or negative, this is an action of speech. Now that could have its results in very many different varying ways. It's not calculable. It's not predictable very well. I mean, if you say something nasty to someone, you can guess it will upset that person. But what they do about that, you cannot really guess. So all actions have their results. So you just understand it as not a law. Let me just read the question again, just in case I'm missing the point. I crave an answer. Well, craving is what we're trying to get rid of, really. This is unwholesome desire. So I think you're just meaning you're enthusiastic about knowing the answer, though. You're not specifically saying you have a problem with craving. And you have a doubt about Buddhism. How did the natural law of karma... So, and you're saying, how did it, according to Buddhism, how did the natural law of karma originate? So you're coming from a background, I think, here, reading between the lines, of understanding karma anyway, in perhaps a different context. Well, the Buddha himself said, don't try and understand the originations of the cosmos or the results of karma as if it was something that can be known or understood or calculated within this lifetime, because you'd spend an entire lifetime trying to work all these things out and get nowhere. Instead, deal with what we have, and that is what we can really see and experience within this lifetime. And when we can really understand that there is suffering, and we can understand there's a cause of suffering, we can then realize the end of suffering. And this is via means of that path leading to the end of suffering. This is the Four Noble Truths. Now that cause of suffering is desire, is that craving. So if you're craving to understand the origins of the cosmos, the universe, the origins of karma, in that respect, then you're never going to get the answer. Scientifically or theoretically, it isn't available to us. If so, it would have been perhaps established by now, but even in our wildest imaginations, we cannot predict that someone's going to understand the exact origins of the cosmos, and therefore the cosmos's natural law, which is karma, that all actions we perform will have results. So karma is just actions, the results, vipaka, are the results of those actions. And all of our karma, our actions of body, speech and mind, are what put in to affect the causes and conditions for our very existence and being, and how things will be for the future. And Buddhism is, just as I was describing in the beginning, just the practice of Buddhism is Sila, Samadhi, Panya. And Panya, wisdom, as in Buddhist wisdom, is the understanding of those Four Noble Truths that I've just spoken of, but also the nature of all things, the characteristics of existence, anicca, that all things are impermanent, that there is suffering, dukkha, as in the Four Noble Truths, and that we are not in control, anatta. It's often translated as not self, but specifically we're not in control of what either these physical bodies do, even what our thinking minds do. We cannot determine what our next thought will be. Try it. Ask yourself, what will be my next thought? Your mind goes blank, doesn't it? It's a good way of clearing the mind. Ask yourself, what will be my next thought? Oh, my mind's gone blank, because we don't know. We have no control. This body, this thinking of mind, it is not ours. That is the real understanding of not self, anatta. So understanding anicca, dukkha, anatta is the wisdom, all the wisdom we need. Now, these aren't things to be believed. They're just simple truths, and relatively easy to understand truths in that context. So, let that allay your doubts, because what can we doubt about the truth? If something is true, it cannot be doubted, can it? This candle is a light. I'm telling you the candle is a light. It's not a lie. There's no doubt this candle is a light. But in a minute it could blow out with a little puff of wind, and the candle will no longer be a light. It doesn't mean that I was lying. At the time it was a light. There can be no doubt in that. Just as there can be no doubt there is suffering, and there is a cause of suffering. And as far as the law of karma is concerned, there can be no doubt that all of our actions will have consequences. So, I hope that answers that. Hello, love listening to your videos. I used to scratch my face a lot when experiencing anxiety and stress. As a result, I have a lot of wrinkles around my eyes, despite being only 28. I know everything is impermanent and that it is wiser to focus on inner qualities rather than superficial outer qualities. But can you clarify how to deal with looking older than your age and letting go of the need to being beautiful? Consider yourself as having wisdom, looking old and wise. And wisdom is beautiful. But, people age. You've answered the question yourself. You know everything is impermanent, and that it is wiser to focus on inner qualities rather than superficial outer qualities. Of course, that is so. But we still, perhaps not so much us monks, but we still age, and I haven't actually seen in the mirror for a long time, so I probably look in the mirror and think, whoa, you look so old now, Phra Dan. But if we're not looking at ourselves very often, then we don't know, do we? We feel the same. Maybe we have our aches and pains, but as far as what we look like, we don't age. So don't dwell on it too much. Don't spend so much time looking at yourself in front of the mirror. I appreciate perhaps in everyday life one has to be presentable and look tidy and clean, but you can do that without... We don't, as monks, don't have mirrors, and wherever I'm staying, and if there is a mirror, I tend not to look at it out of I'm not now accustomed to the habit of looking in the mirror anymore. So I shave my head, shave my face, wash my face, do whatever you have to do without a mirror. So that's without looking at myself. I can't see my own eyes, I can't see my face. You could say these videos, but I don't really watch these videos, and I only have a cheap phone, so my eyes aren't great for close-up stuff, so I can't really see myself very well on there. But you can still be, hopefully, I'm still relatively presentable and clean. We have very simple hair and clothing, I appreciate that. But as far as details such as wrinkles around your eyes are concerned, I can understand if you're only 28 and you have a lot of wrinkles around your eyes. Call them laughter lines, not wrinkles. Make them positive. I think, I understand also you had this problem scratching, and we do. If we're anxious, sometimes this could manifest itself in some form of scratching or picking at something out of a sort of a nervous habit. I'm not so sure that would cause the wrinkling around your eyes. This may have happened anyway. So don't be kind to yourself. It's not your fault. We age at different rates. Now, I know people in their 20s with lots of laughter lines, wrinkles around their eyes, because they laughed a lot, or they've squinted like this quite a lot. I don't know. It's character. Don't let it bother you. It really, you know the answer. We age. Everything's impermanent. But yes, basically we get old. We're of the nature to get old, get sick and die. We're all common in that respect. Now, if you have a few more wrinkles than others, then it doesn't matter so much. Now, if we look at trees, are trees all the same? Are they all symmetrical, straight, lines going up like this? No, they're gnarled and branches go off in different directions, and in fact the more gnarled and unusual they are, the more character they have and the more appeal they have to us looking at trees. If we saw all trees as dead straight pieces of wood, it wouldn't be a very attractive thing to look at a forest. But when we see all the character in the trees, then we see beauty in that. So there's very much truth in beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Total smoothness is perhaps maybe the thing for the day, but perhaps in the past and in the future won't be necessarily what is considered beautiful. What is considered beautiful in some cultures and countries is very different to that is considered beautiful in other cultures and countries. It's very superficial, as you quite rightly say. And knowing this is enough. Just don't think about it and don't worry about it. And certainly don't spend money on creams. They will not make any difference whatsoever. Just some moisturizer or something, yes. If you have dry skin or in a, have any irritations like this, any ointments or creams that are necessary. Even monks are allowed such things. It's considered medicine, if that was the case. But don't think about it. And your question is, clarify how to deal with looking older than your age and letting go of the need to be beautiful. Well, to let go of the need to be beautiful, you don't need to be beautiful for anything other than to attract the opposite sex, if this is your goal and your aim. But even this can be done through charm. You can see couples that one seemingly is beautiful and one is not so beautiful, because they're attractive to each other's personalities. It's not, beauty is not the important thing here. And to let go of that need, one just needs to look at that reality of aging, sickness and death, and how one is going to end up. After you die, your body will puff up, then deteriorate, rot and become quite unattractive, unwholesome, smelly and nasty. This is what we are. If we strip this very thin layer of skin in the context of our overall bodily makeup off, what is beneath it? Examine your bodies in this way. Peel the skin off the person, just imaginarily, you're talking to in front of you, and think of what's underneath the skin. Fatty substances, then flesh and meaty, kind of bloody, not very attractive, under a very thin layer of skin. We are just this, as the Buddha put it, fathom length bag of skin full of nasty things. Know this. Go through the chant of the 32 body parts. reminding yourself of the parts of the body, that there is nothing attractive within this body, just some superficial signs of attractiveness externally. One nun in the suttas was told by an admirer she had beautiful eyes, but she took one eye out and offered it to the person, saying she had beautiful eyes, and he was repulsed by this. It's the same eye, but removed, it's not the same eye, it's no longer beautiful. So it's that superficial, as you quite rightly say, and you already know. So you've answered your own question, and I hopefully have clarified and confirmed that for you. Time, I'm sorry, check the time. I think that has to be enough for today, because, well, I have quite a few more questions and comments to go through yet. I'll need to try and deal with those over the course of the next couple of days, because if the videos go on too long, then I might just bore you and be on YouTube rather too much. So I hope there's something useful in there. Thank you very much for sending in your comments, especially all of the very kind and generous supportive comments and encouraging comments that you send in. Thank you for sending in your questions. Monks don't usually say thank you, we say anumodana, which is a mutual gratitude, sharing of gratitude, appreciation and joy. But I am saying thank you because I mean it. And thank you for subscribing to this channel. There are many subscribers now. I'm not sure that you all watch, but there are many hours of these talks and videos watched. I get to see that. YouTube sends you those numbers. So it's very encouraging for me to know that, and I appreciate very much and thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, ask you to please do so, and also share with your friends or anyone you might find this interesting, but more importantly useful. So if there's anything I've said today that's useful, please use it. If it's not, then don't worry about it. Don't make it into an argument in your head. It's really not necessary. Just let it go, put it down, and hopefully still come back and for some more punishment in the next talk. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you for watching.